All right.
Perfect. Well, now we hit record because I got you in here, and we
Boom.
just started hitting off the bat. And I was just telling you before I hit the button, I was like, I just need to talk to Jim. So before I let you loose, the I'm joined with an awesome guy that I continue to admire all the stuff he puts out, all the work that he does for people. And I wish I had his one-liner quotes that they just click immediately. I'm like, God, like I say that, but like 10 sentences, and he has just like this one perfect square. It's awesome, man. And this is Jim. How do you say it? Hallinan? Is that how you say your last
Yep.
name?
Yeah,
Hallinan.
Hallinan.
Me and him, we met a little while ago, probably a little over a year ago. We
Yeah.
stayed in touch here and there just through mutual circles. And I saw him on Instagram yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I need Jim to come on here because I know everything that he says is great, and I want other people to hear his voice. And I have a good amount of people who listen to this podcast for some reason.
Nice.
I think they like what I have to say, and I know that they're gonna love what you have to say about whatever comes up today, right? And
We'll
I'll
see.
make a whole plan for it. But Jim, thanks for taking the time with me, man. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I absolutely remember meeting you and Hannah, and it's for me just being a old bitter man, uh, being a high school teacher. You just get used to meeting people and not necessarily right away having the greatest feeling about them. People have ulterior motives, or they're just miserable, or there's just something about them that you're like, oh God, when can this conversation end, kind of thing. And I remember meeting you guys, and you were just both so genuine and nice and real, and there was not any hint of fakeness to you. So it was nice meeting you guys. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh yeah, well that makes me happy. You're gonna make me cry right before we even start, man. I
That's what I'm
appreciate
trying.
it. Well, real quick, give us tell me a little bit about yourself. Who the hell is Jim? You just said you're a high school teacher,
Yeah,
and you're also a nutrition coach, a fitness coach as well, or is it mainly nutrition?
just nutrition right now.
Just nutrition. Awesome. So just give me a
Yeah.
little bit backstory. Who the hell are you, and why the hell are you so cool?
I was born in Manassas, Virginia. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that far back. So
Starting back in 1950.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. I was, yeah, I live in New Jersey. I've been a high school teacher for 22 years. Started off teaching just driver's ed. My degree is health phys ed. Started off teaching driver's ed at the high school I teach at. They had an in classroom, just driver's ed teacher. And that's what I was teaching for 7 years. Then started doing health phys ed, all 10th grade. And now I teach seniors in health and phys ed. And at my high school, I wrote a course in nutrition and kinesiology. It's an elective for seniors because we have advanced placement pottery and all these classes at my school. And then there's nothing for anybody that wants to get into health or fitness at all. And I felt like there was a need for that, proposed it, wrote the course. And, or when I got approved, I had to write the curriculum. I'm like, I need to get my master's degree. So I did not want to rely on just my own knowledge. I used to be a personal trainer, and LA Fitness was the assistant manager of the training department. So I knew my stuff to a point, but really feel like I needed to dive deeper in it. So I went back, got my master's, took a bunch of classes, at least got my curriculum writing started with these first few classes, knew the direction I wanted to go in. And yeah, started teaching this class. The first year I'm teaching that class, about a year before that, I started training at a CrossFit gym, and learning about nutrition coaching from the owner there, who worked for a big nutrition coaching company, and started implementing some of the things I'm learning about macros and this and that for performance. It was not a weight loss thing for me that got me really into learning more than just doing these fad diet things that I've done growing up. You don't
Yeah.
eat carbs, you don't eat after a certain time. When in my heyday at 20 years old, 21, working at the gym, it was you got to eat every 3 hours because it stokes your metabolism.
Yeah.
That's how we and you got to change the workout every week to shock the muscle. Like this was all this stuff that was just ingrained in me at a young age in this, I guess in the business technically at the time. So yeah, so I knew about the coaching stuff. I knew that this was a career that people can do. So as I'm this first year teaching this course in nutrition, I'm telling these students who are into this, some of them are now registered dietitians, and
That's
telling them
awesome.
you can coach people with nutrition. This sounds like a weird business. You guys know what personal trainers are, but what's a nutrition coach? This was still very new at the time. Like I didn't This was the only company I knew, the one guy I knew who owned the gym. And as I'm telling them about this, by the end of the school year, I ended up starting Jimmy Nutrition and started my own nutrition coaching business. And I just started going to gyms and telling them, hey, I'm a nutrition coach, totally lying about having clients and anything like that. This is what I do. I'm a nutrition coach. And you know, Christy, and
Yep.
she tells the story about when she first started training people. And she's like, I'm a coach. And she never even coached anybody. And it was like that way, the way we talk to ourselves is super important. And I'm a nutrition coach, even though I never coached anybody. I had two friends. I forgot about two friends that I made challenge each other. Like, I just want to see if my spreadsheet that I made and the way I'm coaching is working and who can lose the most weight. And they're both super competitive. So they were two successful clients that I coached for free for a few
Nice.
months. Those are the people I would reference when I talked about having clients. I just started going to gyms, doing seminars, small gyms, martial arts gyms. And then it took 6 months after my first seminar that I actually got my first real paying client. And it's scary and frightening and all that stuff. But since then, I've been, coaching. And I'm married. I got a 10-year-old kid named Hendrix. And I own a driving school, which is an added little thing that I started.
Wow.
Yeah. I own a driving school that I started like 13 years ago. And I'm totally hands off. I have somebody that runs the office and drivers. I just make sure people get paid and deal with the big issues. But that's something that's totally off the beaten path that I that I also have my feet in. And I guess that's kind of at least things that relate to what we're talking about here. A little bit about me.
That's all right. That's all right, man. I appreciate it. You know, I've had conversations that go way out left field that were completely moved away and removed from fitness and nutrition,
Yeah,
but it's still awesome to hear. And you know, just in hearing a bit of your backstory, what got you into it, you know, it wasn't like a weight loss thing. It really, you know, that's something that I was kind of similar. Like it wasn't just purely weight loss. Like I didn't really struggle with my weight like the vast majority of my life. It was more my perception, my relationship with how certain things worked that I wasn't
yeah,
aware of. Right. I
yeah,
was tall and skinny. Right.
yeah,
I had a hard time gaining weight so much, and it really drove me insane because I was a competitive football player. I wanted to play college football. Right. And I showed up. I remember my freshman year of high school. I showed up at like 167. I told them I played defensive end. Never played defensive end my entire life, but that's all I knew I wanted to play was I wanted to
yeah,
sack the quarterback. I did not want to get hit in the face because I grew up an offensive lineman who was I that's another I kind of overlaid this, but I grew up as a bit of a chubbier kid, but I
yeah,
wasn't aware of it. Right. I
yeah.
wasn't aware. I just like girls didn't like me for some reason. I don't know. And
I
then
had a
seventh grade.
swim coach. I had a swim coach call me the Pillsbury Doughboy when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So I definitely identify with that feeling, even though I wasn't like fat.
Yeah.
So I never walked around thinking I'm fat or chubby. But my coach called me that. And then I remember maybe 12 hearing these girls at the pool like giggling behind me. And I'm like, what are they laughing about? And then somebody ends up telling me they're laughing because I have love handles. Like I store my fat in the love handles. From the
Hmm.
front, it might be it's not this big bowl of a belly, but I got the love
Yeah.
handles. That's where I store it. So those are like my two memories as a kid of being on that chubby side. But I never
Hmm.
still in my head, I don't have a memory of me walking around feeling insecure about like I'm fat. But it
Hmm.
did stick with me throughout life where I'm always noticing the love handles and it's always like this insecurity type thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
yeah, same
I
thing, man.
interrupted.
Like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
okay. Again, like this is where it kind of like this is why we have these conversations, right? Because it's the same connections, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know like I was fat, but it was like I had a kid in a locker room ask me if I had stretch marks, and I legitimately did not know what stretch marks were. This is like
Yeah.
sixth grade, you know, and I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, you know what stretch marks are. And I legitimately had no idea what he was talking about. Then he walked away, and I just have that memory ingrained in my head, like, what the hell are stretch marks? You know,
Yeah.
like those are just little jabs that just kind of just stuck
Yeah.
with me. But again, you know, then I looked, I was like, I never had stretch marks before, so I
Yeah.
still was
Yeah.
like, how the fuck did this even apply? Anyway, but after that, you know, then I kind of figured like I started riding my bike a lot more. I just was way more active, and then I grew like 2 feet in 2 years. It was ridiculous, and
I'm
now I was
still waiting for
tall.
that to happen.
You're not in your growth spurt yet, Jim. You're not there yet. Uh, but then I got tall, I got skinny, and I wanted to play defensive line, right? I want to be a defensive end, and I just kept getting jabbed about how small I was, how small I
Yeah.
was, how small I was. And I'm 6'2". Now I'm over 200 pounds, and I still walk into public and I feel like a small person
Yeah.
because I've been told the vast majority of my life as I was an athlete, and I was around a bunch of actual huge people
Yeah.
that I'm a small person. So all through my high school career, my college career, I was always undersized. I didn't understand what it actually meant to eat, right? And that always drove me insane. And then I had this weird click at the end of my career, my last season. I'm going into it. I'm like, okay, maybe I should try legitimately trying to eat more than my typical, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I
Yeah.
gained 35 pounds in 3 months. And
Did you
it was
use Liver
cool.
King's protocol?
No, no, no Liver King
We're
protocol.
having
There's no.
I'm recording an emergency podcast tonight about Liver King, so I'll have to send you the link once it's out. But both sides of the fence on that topic. We're not gonna get into it now, but
Yeah, yeah, no, there was no $15,000 worth of HGH involved in that time. It was literally like I woke up, I'd start eating, I'd go to the gym,
yeah,
I'd eat again, and it was literally like 8 times a day I was eating. My
yeah.
jaw was
Oh,
sore.
yeah, the high school kids that I've had who are skinny and want to gain weight, every one of them is like, I eat all the time.
You
And I go,
don't.
no, you don't. And they're like, how do I
You
gain
don't.
weight? And I go, you got to eat more. They're like, I eat all the time, or I eat so much. And I go, no, you don't. They're like, yeah, huh? I go, do you eat breakfast in the morning? No, I'm usually
Oh,
running late and I run out. What do you have? Like, do you bring a snack with you? No, but I eat lunch. What do you have for lunch? And then they'll tell me what they eat, even if it's a school lunch.
yeah,
800 calories, maybe max. If they packed
yeah.
it, probably less. And then they have practice after school.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come home and they have this 3 to 4 hour window where they're doing homework, cleaning up, and eating everything in the world. And it adds up to
Air
like
quotes.
like 2,000 calories. Like, yeah, it seems like you ate everything, but you just ate a bunch in a short period of time and it wasn't enough.
Yep.
Like, just start eating breakfast, do the rest the same, and that might be enough to help you gain weight. But their perception of what they eat, just like somebody trying to lose weight. I
Mm-hmm.
really like cut out what I eat. I ate. Maybe you did something less, but you're still eating the same amount of calories or whatever. Our perception can be so off with that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Until I had that click, it was like, okay, I'm legitimately not eating enough. And
Yeah,
then I gained weight. I was like, where has this been? Like, if I would have done this 5 years ago, I
yeah,
probably would have had a much different career, hopefully,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I would have been at least much more durable because I was a starting undersized defensive end in a college
Okay,
program, who basically always had injuries because I just wasn't
yeah,
able to go against the 300-pound guys all the time.
yeah, yeah,
And after that, I tried to be professional, I tried to go professional. I lost about 20 pounds during that last season. For some reason I convinced myself that I could go professionally. I did not have the career to do that, but
yeah,
still I gained another 30 pounds after that. So I went from 235 down to 215 and up to 250, 245. And I was completely slow. I was super strong. I was basically a power lifter trying to be a football player.
yeah,
The squat over deadlift, squat over 500 pounds, deadlift over 500 pounds, 225 bench press, like 25 reps. And it was cool and all, but I lost everything that like I was good at in football. I lost all my
yeah,
speed, and that messed with my head. I was like, I finally figured it out. I'm finally strong. Why did I lose everything else I was good at? Right. And all my perceptions kept like jumping into different avenues of like this is my solution, this is my one problem that I need to solve, and then when I
yeah,
solve it I create a bunch of other problems,
yeah,
and then it just made it eroded my relationship with myself and what I thought I could actually accomplish. And that's really what launched me into like I need to figure this shit out, right? And that's why I'm here now doing what I do, getting to talk to people like you, because the perceptions that we have create more problems if we don't come at it from the right place. And if we don't know how
100%.
something works, we need to figure that out first before we
Yes.
jump to the next solution, run to the next solution. I'm sure you're used to, I mean, you're dealing with teenagers a lot of the time, but I know your clients come to you and they have like all these false or these misconceptions and false perceptions of what actually is supposed to go on. So how do you handle that for certain people?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'm always pushing, and you can pretty much see it through my Instagram, is the reasons that you're really shooting for. And everybody, every coach out there is find your why, find your why. And we say it and hear it so much that people are just like, whatever. I don't know if you curse on here or how much you curse.
I fucking
Um, all
curse
right.
as much as you fucking want to.
Yeah. It's just like this when people hear it, like, okay, fuck that is the thing. Like, how do I lose weight? And for me and you and your reasons for what you're doing for your weight up, weight down, my reasons for losing weight and gaining weight throughout my life, the times that I was the most successful when it was not about the number on the scale. And like
Yep.
when I started tracking macros and learning this stuff, my goal was performance. I ended up losing over 20 pounds. It was not even a goal in my head to do that. It was a goal because I was like, I need to cut some fat, but that was not the reasons that I was tracking everything. The reason was I don't want to crash in the middle of a workout. I want performance was my main thing. And even since then, every time that I've leaned up, it has not been with this focus on the scale. When
Mhm.
I did a challenge where, we're cutting out processed foods for a period of time to see, as we reintroduce foods, how it makes our gut feel. And when I did that, I got all lean and I wasn't even trying. And I'm like, I didn't even notice it. I wasn't weighing myself the entire time. So I had no idea if I was losing weight or not. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I saw a picture. I was like doing a video in the garage and I see myself, I'm like, oh shit, like I got lean. So it's always that mindset of like, really, why are you doing what you're doing? Trying to get people to really wrap their head around that and not let the scale be such a driving force. And it's because we've been through it. That's
Mhm.
why. Maybe I wasn't 100 pounds overweight, so I haven't had to deal with that. That might be a different experience. I've had clients that are 100 pounds overweight and get them through this stuff. And we just keep focusing on action steps, not on the result of those action steps. Did you show up for yourself? And the number one way to build confidence, because most people, when they're trying to lose weight, they think they're going to feel more confident afterwards. Like
Yeah.
they want to feel better. I want to feel better naked. I want to feel better clothed. Some people, too, they're always talking about feeling better naked. Some people just want to feel better dressed. They
Yeah.
don't feel
Yeah.
better
Seriously.
in any of their clothes that they're buying. They keep trying to find things to cover up their body instead of feeling confident in their body and confident in the clothes they're wearing. So we know that the goal for most people is going to be confidence, whether their why is I want to be sexy for my husband or wife, or I want to be healthy for my kids. Sometimes when I hear people say that, I'm like, do you really believe that? They just, I want to be around for my kids. I'm like, do you really believe that? Because if that really was your reason, you'd been doing something by now.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes there are some other reasons that might be a little bit more superficial and they don't want to say that. But if people can just start to focus and figure out really why they want to do this, they want to feel good, they want to feel confident. Well, the only way that you're going to feel good and confident is if you start showing up for yourself. When you
Mhm.
say you're going to go to the gym and you don't do it, you're reinforcing that you're a failure in your mind. You're not
Yeah.
a failure, but in your mind, you're reinforcing that you're a failure. Every time you say you're going to be good this weekend and you don't, you're reinforcing that you're incapable of doing this. So it's
Yeah.
very easy to quit. And when the scale is the driving force, we know it fluctuates. If that's always your driving force, the scale goes up one day after a good day. You're like, why the fuck did I even bother eating good? And
Yeah.
how many times does somebody like they get some pizza or something the next day? They're like feeling lean and jacked. The scale's down a pound. They're like, I might as well just eat like that if the scale is
Yeah.
going to go down. And they're trying to figure out why it went up, why it went down. I'm like, we got to let go of all that stuff because those are all a part of those preconceived notions. If I eat this way, I should weigh less tomorrow. If I
Mhm.
do a 30-minute walk, I should weigh less tomorrow.
Mhm.
I did the thing. I met myself where I was, but I allowed this number on the scale distract me so much that now I'm not even going to bother showing up for ourselves or for myself. So I really try to get people to focus on what actions did you complete, really praise them for completing the action steps and reminding them that it's totally normal about any of these distractions that come up. Me and
Yeah.
Aram, who we do the podcast with, we're always saying we're just reminders. We're here to teach
Yeah.
you stuff, hold you accountable, but really we're just here to remind you about things like that were things you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Reminder of things like this is how the scale works. Reminder of it's okay to fail on a lift and whatever. I don't know if
No.
that answered or said anything.
It said everything, dude. That's literally, this is why I knew I wanted to talk to you, because when my clients hear this and the people in my Facebook group and people who listen to this pay attention, they're like, oh man, so Jonah's not the only person who's like telling you to stop focusing on the things that piss you off the most and
Yeah.
focusing on feeling better right now.
Yeah.
Oh, what's not? There's no secret. There's no like what's the pill, the diet. No, none of that shit matters. It's what you can control right now that's going to help you feel better in the moment. And when I started my own, well, like my fitness journey was interesting. Like when I truly wanted to understand calories and body recomposition, like I went real deep.
Yeah.
Like I basically went from never tracking before my entire life to tracking every single grain of rice that fell onto my plate, and if it
Yeah.
fell off, I would go back to the kitchen and reweigh it. Um,
I never got that crazy. I'll tell you.
oh, dude, it was nuts. I think
My
it's because
strategy was always large deficit so that if that I wouldn't care about the little extra stuff because I knew I'd still be at a deficit. I'll be like 1,000 calorie deficit. That way
yeah.
I don't have to weigh the ketchup and the extra grains. I don't expect to actually be in 1,000 calorie deficit, but that's my
it's a little guideline for you, right?
whatever works for us.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had a friend who was a registered dietitian, and I was just like kind of poking around about what macros were. And I was like, hey, I want to get as lean as possible for my wedding. I've heard about this thing called macros. Could you help me? She's like, yeah, here's 300 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, 100 grams of fat. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just took that as this is life, and I
Were
will
those
be
really
following.
numbers that they gave you?
Yeah,
Oh,
3,000 calories, 300 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, 100 grams of fat.
wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Isn't it
Yeah.
funny to know so much more than a registered dietitian?
I, I have nothing but respect for her, and
They're
it
not
was
terrible. I mean, it's a little high on the protein.
it's a bit high. It's a bit
You know,
high, but
you know.
yeah, I didn't know what I know. I did not know then what I
Yes.
know now to say
Yeah.
that. But when I did that, I was like, this is a rule. This is my guideline. I will hit these numbers to a T, right? And guess what? I built myself this little box. I
Yeah.
did everything, followed those numbers to a T. I got lean as hell. I was like
Yeah.
7% body fat for my wedding. And I looked fantastic.
Yeah.
But then I go to my wedding and I can't really enjoy like the alcohol, the food that though I would like to. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh God, I'm going to regain all the fat that I just lost. Oh, we're
Yeah.
going to our honeymoon a few days afterwards. I can't have a chocolate croissant for breakfast because after that I'm not used to eating just carbs for breakfast. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
puff right back up, and when we focus on the external so much,
Yeah.
right? And we get something that works, quote unquote. We're seeing the numbers go down. We're seeing the body improvements, and what we're doing may not be as conducive to how we want to live, but we don't care in the moment because we're seeing the results that we want. We don't see the long lasting residual results of our actions, even if it's quote unquote working,
Yeah.
right? And so because of that, it took me a long time to even get away from tracking. And I
Yeah.
haven't touched it in the last 2 years essentially because of how compulsive I was. And I think it's because I have a bit of an addictive personality when it comes to
Yeah.
certain things,
Yeah.
and because of that, I just don't touch it as much anymore because I
Yeah.
know the boundary, right? I know how much I need to eat in order to sustain and maintain my goals because of that, which I'm grateful for. But I will not let myself go into that same box because I couldn't enjoy my goddamn wedding. That's not
Yeah.
something I signed up for. I wanted to
Yeah.
have fun. I did have fun, but not to the extent that I could have. Right. And that's
Yeah.
another thing when we're shifting away from the external, just know your why. I want to look better. All that stuff is important, but we mainly want to feel better right now and create the foundation that's more important to us than just the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And even if we do have a vanity metric that we want to get to, that's fine. But don't dig a hole for yourself. That's really hard to climb out of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. My goal with everybody, I've had a lot of clients who don't get to where they initially maybe wanted to be,
Mhm.
but they found out along the way that I'm not willing to do what is required to get me to this fantasy land in my head. You're 45 years old. You're trying to look like you're 22. You got 3 kids, a job, a spouse. Do you understand the sacrifices that you're going to have to go through to get this body that you keep in your head envisioning wanting to have? And chances are when you were 22, you didn't even think your body was that great. That was one of my posts just the other day. Like we never appreciate what we have. We don't appreciate the body that we have. Then we gain 30 pounds and we're like, I wish I could look like I did back then. But back then you didn't even like how you looked
Yep.
because you didn't maybe earn that body. That was just the result of the circumstances of your life that you had that body because you were active, you played sports in college, you were all around, you weren't sitting on the couch all the time like you are now as an adult. You didn't have enough, as much stress, all those things. So you never really appreciate it because you didn't work hard for the body that you had back then. Because the people that are working hard for their body, they're training hard and they're paying enough attention to their nutrition. They do value their body a little bit more and appreciate what they have in that moment. But I think people really need to figure out, what am I willing to sacrifice to get to this? And if I can get people on the way to, maybe for, again, a weight loss client, on the way to this goal number that they had in their head, to start to appreciate their body a little bit more and go, I do appreciate the time that I spend with family. I do appreciate my friends that I have, that I do social things with. And I am really happy here with my body, maybe even 10 pounds heavier than what they initially thought they wanted to get to, because they see the value. They don't want to say no to all these social situations that they have. And then there's people where it's like, maybe you're saying yes a little too much to social situations because you hate your body, and it's, it's, maybe it is an unhealthy situation. So it's wild how that whole process works. I just really, really, I'll never be so focused on getting somebody to a scale number at the cost of their mental health and at the cost of their relationships and the cost of their friendships. I'm constantly reminding people, while they're on this journey, constantly reminding them, like, what do you really want? What are you really willing to give up? And hey, if this is something, maybe you want to spend a few months like you did, 300, 200, 100, but that this is for a period of time. This is what it's going to take to get there. And I'm prepared to come out of this season. Then I think it's okay. Like right now, you could probably mentally handle getting hardcore with macros if you had a specific goal in mind. If you were like, I want to do a photo shoot and you could probably handle doing it and bouncing out of it because you've been through it before and you understand what that's like. And hey, I'm going to get really hardcore into this. And maybe this time I won't count every piece of rice. I'll let a couple fall down and pick them up and not reweigh it. You'll
Yes.
probably have a little bit more grace with yourself, and you'll know at the end, I'm not going to gain 100 pounds if I have a chocolate croissant, and you can transition out of it better because you have experience with it. So, yeah, again, I black out when I talk, so I don't know when I end or when I should end, but that's my goal for people.
No, it's good. And again, this is why I like you, Jim. We're the same way. You'll have to come into it, like when I do weekly trainings, and you'll ask everybody who listens to me, like, oh, there goes his rabbit hole. I'm like, what was I saying before?
Yeah. I do a Tuesday talk in my Facebook group, and I'll just I'll talk about this post, and I have no idea what I'm going to say. And then I just start talking. I can't prepare things. Even my first seminar, my dad's like, just prepare it and present it to the living room the way that you blah, blah, blah. And I start doing it. And then I start making up questions that people in the invisible audience are asking, and I start answering them. I'm like, I am unable to prepare for anything. That's one of the things I'm grateful for, being a teacher for so long before getting into this, because I just can't. I'm better on the whim, just going and see where my brain takes me, whether I remember what I said or not. So I appreciate that about you too, if you do the same thing.
Dude, I do it all the time, because every time I start explaining something, someone asked me a question, like someone asked me today, actually, because I do like a Q&A on my Instagram, and they're like, how do I get 205 grams of protein in my day? And I was like, well, I could tell you that easily, but I have like multiple other questions. I basically had a book written for them to help them understand how to get there, but ultimately why it's important to do that, and all the other possible questions that they could answer. I just had it all ready, but I was like, hold on, this person has never talked to me. So I should probably dial it back for a second. But yeah, I understand, because every time I want to explain something, because of what I know now and the crazy sides of the spectrum that I've been on, I know all the rabbit holes that you can fall into.
Yeah.
So the second I start explaining and answering one thing, I know that there's
Yeah.
30 other things that
But that doesn't mean do this. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean do this,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And then you have to explain, but it means this. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why I don't do the podcast and plan anything, because I could like yesterday, I was starting to feel better after I was sick, so I did my Tuesday training in my Facebook group too, and I told them, like, I have notes, and I lost the notes. I was like, oh, here they are, and then I just like, oh, cool, I have my notes, and I just started talking, and then like 30 minutes go by. I was like, I didn't look once at that sheet, and I don't even know if I talked about anything that was on that sheet, but hopefully they understood what I was trying to say.
And that's why I stopped even having notes, because I would do the same thing. I would write down a couple of main points, and then I'd start talking, and I'd forget about the freaking piece of paper that had just 4 things written down.
Yeah.
I have to tape it on the computer or something if I wanted to remember that.
Just keep it right in front of your face so you can't remember it. It's good to know that I'm not just crazy, and other people
No,
are like
you are. You're just, there's other people that are crazy too.
because you have to kind of be crazy to understand as much as this stuff that goes into this.
Yeah. It's like, what's wrong with us? Nothing and everything all at the same time. And that's why
Look,
we understand why our clients are going crazy too.
yeah, seriously, and honestly, it's. I want to go back to something you said earlier when you're talking about your podcast, and it's we're a lot of times we're mainly reminders,
Yeah.
right? Because essentially, most people know what the hell they should be doing,
Yeah.
and it's. And I heard this. I can't remember who said. I think it was probably from something from Hormozy, but we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught in most things.
Yeah.
And what essentially you and I do is like connect the dots of like kind of let the person give themselves a break for not really having the understanding each rabbit hole that goes into this, and
Yeah.
that their decision that they make that may have not worked out the way they would like it to have, it's not the end of the world, it's not the
Yeah.
end all be all, right? And you just need to be reminded like, hey, what you were doing to feel better, when you were just focusing on water intake and just getting outside a little bit more often, like that's working. Go back to that. Stop trying to overcomplicate it and like go
Yeah.
down these rabbit holes to get the or create more rabbit holes that make it a lot harder to come out of. And this process becomes much easier when you learn to just hey, let's focus on the very basic simple things, right, that will elicit a weight loss response when you focus on just feeling good, right,
Yeah.
and keep it fucking basic. It's
Yeah. But
ridiculous.
I think most people too don't want to admit a couple of things. They don't want to admit that they are looking for a shortcut. That's why they keep asking, "What should I do? What should I
Yeah.
do?"
Yeah.
Because every time they're hoping that you're going to get that answer,
Hmm.
that's going to be the shortcut. It's hard for people, I think, to really wrap their head around the fact that the average person who maintains a certain level of health and fitness throughout their life has these staples, and
Hmm.
we call them I call them staples because they hold everything together. You use a staple to hold a bunch of paper together. They're the staples in your life. They're holding you together when shit goes crazy. I know that I'm going to drink water. I know that I'm going to look to have protein in each meal. I know that I'm going to want to move at some point during the day. Like these are staples. No matter how bad things are going, I have staples that are just holding me together. So I think people, they keep asking all these questions. It's like the nutrition coach who keeps getting certifications without ever going and coaching anybody. I feel like I
Yeah.
need to learn more. I need to learn more. So one, I think they're afraid to fail, and two, they're afraid that they do think that there is something that they're missing. And
Hmm.
why do they think that? Because that's all they're being told everywhere in marketing. Everywhere in marketing is telling you that you're not good enough. You'd be better if you bought these sneakers. You'd be better if you bought these leggings. This is the trick, the primal way, the keto, the intermittent fasting, this pill, the new insulin shot that people are taking. And now people with type 2 diabetes are struggling to even get their insulin because people are dieting with insulin. It's crazy, but I think people really have a hard time. Like, I got to do this every day. Yes, every day. Maybe not every day. You miss a day, whatever. But
Yeah.
yes, for the rest of your life. There is no goal in fitness. You can have some goals along the way for certain things. Maybe it's a body fat percentage or a lift, or I'm going to walk to Mount Everest and back in the next year on my sidewalks, whatever that might be. You can have these little goals, but there is no end goal. The
Hmm.
goal is playing the game. The goal is being in the process. The goal is showing up and doing it every day. So that's what I always tell people is once you start showing up and doing it, you are there.
Hmm.
Since the goal is to be fit people show up every day or almost every day, whatever.
Yeah.
They're
You
showing
have
up
to
on a
throw the
regular basis.
caveat in there.
Yeah. So once you start doing those things, you're doing it. Now, are you going to quit just because you didn't see the result that you expected in your head as quickly as you expected it? Well, that's on you at this point,
Hmm.
And like you said, everybody knows what to do. They know what to do. Like, what should I do? What's the best way? How about this? Stop eating all processed foods. Well, that just seems crazy. Okay. How about you stop eating as much as you're, I'll try, but I mean, the stuff's here for the kids, and it's just really hard
Hmm.
sometimes and they have all the reasons lined up right off the bat, but they know what they need to do. So that's why most of the time we don't have to tell people what to do. I never tell anybody what to do. My clients, it's like, well, you tell me. You tell me. And
Holy
then
crap.
we go from there. You tell me, what are you thinking? Are you ready to go into a deficit? Are you ready for what that's going to entail for the night? I think I am. Great. Then this is what's up. This is what we're going to do. I need to get my protein. How do you plan on getting more protein throughout the day? And let's see if they can start to think about these things. Because if all you're doing is what you're being told to do, you're never going to know what to do when you're not being told to do it. So you got to
Dude.
have them come up with the plan, and then you're there to enforce, hold accountable, and remind. And then also make sure they don't do stupid stuff. Like that's also what you're paying for, our knowledge to be like, listen, this is a path you could go down because you saw an ad on Instagram. Understand this is the other side of that.
Yeah.
And now just so that you know, you have a little bit more education going into this decision that you want to go down. But yeah.
No, I love that. And honestly, that I'm so glad that you said that because over when I first we're kind of going back to as a football player, I played football for 15 years, something along those lines, a very long time, vast majority of my life.
I was a swimmer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So
Whatever.
we
Not as cool, but whatever.
that's okay. I mean, I admire swimmers because I sink. I get in a pool and I'm at the bottom, man. I don't get you people.
Just kidding. You have
uh,
the body for a swimmer, 6'2". You're like Mike Phelps over there.
I know, yeah. I'd be a great swimmer if I
I
could swim.
know.
I can tread water. That's about it.
That's all you need. Not to be a great swimmer, but to stay alive.
Just to stay alive, yeah. Just enough to get me out of the water. That's all I need because
Yeah.
swimming is exhausting.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have that athletic background. For so long, you're told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, right? And then something that like when I first started coaching, I wanted to help athletes, former athletes,
Yeah.
who essentially had the rug pulled from beneath them, and they had no idea what to do now, right? They
Yeah.
either you were forced to use exercise as punishment, and now they see it as a horrible thing that they will never do the second they leave their sport, and or they just don't know how to maintain a healthy relationship with their food, or actually they never had a healthy relationship with food, but they had their sport to compensate for it. So now they
Yeah.
have all these terrible habits, and now they don't have the person to tell them where to be, what to do all the time. They're always looking for that. So
Yeah.
when I started coaching, I was like, oh yeah, oh this is how I got the result. You track your calories, you do the thing, you check off the boxes, right? Do it. And then I
Yeah.
started seeing like a lot of that wouldn't stick. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people get more and more frustrated with themselves. And I started asking myself the question like, where's the missing piece?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the piece isn't I don't want the people to be like me after I lost my football career, and I literally was floundering and not knowing what to do with my life and have to take care of myself. I was like, I want them to feel capable. I want them to know what to do. And you have to and I feel like this is really what's missing a lot when it comes to coaching in general is teaching the person how to thrive themselves, but
Yeah.
you're just the guide. That's it,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, we help them not make asshole decisions because we can help educate them on them, but it's all about helping them make the more empowered decision.
Yeah.
A effective coach gives the athlete or the prospect the tools to make the most effective decision. That
Yeah.
doesn't
And
mean most healthiest. That
yeah.
just
And every
means
new
most
coach,
effective.
yeah, and every new coach does the opposite, like you said, because you
Mhm.
want to show them how much you know. So you
Yeah.
feel like you have to tell them. It would be weird as a brand new coach. You're like, so what do you think? And you'd
Yeah.
feel like an idiot. As an
Yeah.
experienced coach, I have no, what do you think? You
Yeah.
tell me the plan, and then I'll tell you if that sounds like a good plan or not.
Yeah.
When a client would get in touch and say, what should I get from this restaurant? I'm trying to be good. What do you think you should get? Let's see if you're even close to a good decision of the options that are here.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good decision. I was also checking out this one. One of those two things would be great. Sounds good. Good job making the decision. It builds confidence in that person to make that. Okay, so I am making good decisions. What I see here, but yeah, good coach is absolutely asking them what they think, and I think too for some people, you realize I just like having the coach. I like having the accountability, and you probably know all this stuff even more confidently how to do things on your own. And it's okay to say, you know what, but I still just want to always have a coach
Hmm.
because I know that I'm an obliger. I'm going to be better when there's somebody there telling me what to do, giving me some numbers, holding me accountable. And sometimes too, it just feels good. I mean, with my coach, I'll pay him a lot of money writing programming, and I didn't work out for like 2 weeks one time plus. And he didn't make me feel bad about it. He's just like, hey, how did you feel? How did you feel having all the extra time in your day? Like, it was actually nice. Like, I wasn't thinking about, I got to work out. I got to work out. And then an hour goes by. I'm like, shit, I gotta get this in at some point. I was like, it was kind of nice. He's like, it sounds like you really needed that break. And it sounds like you really enjoyed that time. Are you ready to get back to it? I'm like, yeah. And if I didn't have that conversation, one, I might just continue to beat myself up. I might take in 2 more weeks before I got back into working out. And it's okay to just know, hey, I like having somebody in my corner all the time, you know?
Yeah. No,
But for those
seriously,
of you who
man.
have been paying for a coach for a while, don't feel like, shouldn't I should be on my own by now. Well, if you like having a coach, have a coach. You don't
Yeah.
have to go off on your own. And if you feel like you're ready to go off on your own, great, go off on your own. And then if you fell off the course hardcore without the coach, then maybe you realize I do need this accountability in my life. We all need accountability.
Yeah.
We all need accountability. I
Yeah.
mean, in every aspect. I mean,
Oh man.
like imagine if you had a job where you got paid to do this job, but nobody ever found out if you actually did the job or not. You're not going to do the fucking job.
No, absolutely not.
Like,
I was just thinking, like, what the would I do it? No, I probably
yeah, like
wouldn't.
if there was no clocking into work and your boss never got there until an hour after you got there, are you going to show up at fucking 9 o'clock when you know there's not a camera, there's not a clock in, and the boss don't come till 10? No, you're going to show up at freaking quarter of, and you'll be like, yeah, I've been here since 9, boss.
Yep.
You know, we all need that accountability, you know? So
Yeah.
anyway,
It's that simple, you know. And just like you said, like your own coach, I have a coach. You know, Christy is my coach. You know, and just having her, like, I don't always look for her to say, "Hey, solve my problems." She
yeah,
always like, "Hey, like, what is it? How are you feeling? Where are you at right now?"
yeah,
Right. And my coaches in the past, it's shifted away from what I'm used to. Right. Where I'm used to is the coach like, this is what I need you to do by this time, by this day. It's like,
yeah,
okay, cool. Well, that's great, but now I lose the autonomy to think for myself and
yeah,
make the best decision for me, the most aligned decision. And that's something that I've been saying a lot to my clients lately as they sign. As I get a lot of people who work with me, and you know, uh, it's so hard. Like, I'm a lifestyle and nutrition coach that talks a lot about fitness as well, but you know,
yeah,
there's so much that goes into it, and someone signs on expecting weight loss, and they're used to the fasting, the keto, the Herbalife, all that shit, and they're like, all right, well, I'm ready to lose weight. And then I ask them, where do you want to start? And they're so confused. They're
yeah,
like, and they're 2 3 weeks in, they're like, why am I not losing weight yet? Like, I expected weight loss. I was like, okay, first off, we talked about what this is. This is not
yeah,
a diet, right? But it's still that going back to that old programming of like, well, I want weight loss. It's like, okay, if I snap my fingers and you lose all your weight right now, are all your problems gone? No, no, they're not. Great. So right now we're working on those problems so that when you do lose weight, you don't end up right back to where you're at
yeah.
right now.
And
And that's
sometimes,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
All I was gonna say is that's really like that. What I see coaching as now is, you know, allow them to solve their biggest red flag problems right now, so they create autonomy for themselves, so they have that choice
Yeah,
to have the accountability like perpetually, or the confidence in themselves to move forward and,
yeah,
you know, move away from this codependent relationship that like solve all my problems for me. It's like, no, you need to solve your own problems. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So anyway,
yeah.
cut you off.
The I love sometimes with those clients where they're saying something. I know this is not the right time for something. There's a time you got to give people what they want, and there's a time where you got to give people what they need.
Yep.
And there's been plenty of times where somebody's pushing the deficit, and I'm like, we're not even in a caloric level that you could even get into a deficit that you'd be able to even mentally handle for a week.
Yeah.
But you think so? You keep talking about this. Let's do it. Let's go to 1150 because you don't have enough calories in your day. Let's do it for the week. Let me know how you feel. Sometimes this game, not the game of coaching, the game of like dieting, lifestyle, you know, figuring out what works is just a series of experiments. You
Yeah.
have to look at it as an experiment, not this is the solution. Because when you look at it as this is the solution, it's not the solution. It's just another thing that failed you or
Mhm.
another thing that you failed. I must have done it wrong. I'm broken, whatever it might be. So it's a series of experiments. Hey, let's try intermittent fasting. You're not a big breakfast fan? Cool. Let's try some keto. You got 200 pounds to lose and you barely move. Maybe keto is going to be a good strategy for you. But yeah, then I'll put somebody at like a really low calorie diet because they keep pushing they want to be in a deficit. And then like 5 days later, they're like, fuck this. I'm, I'm hungry. I feel like shit. I'm not sleeping good. And I'm like, okay, this is what I was telling you, but you had to feel it.
Mhm.
Now are you ready to get back onto like what I'm thinking is the best thing for you? Yes. And now at least you created that buy-in by having that experience, the thing that they've been begging for. And at the same time, maybe there was somewhere in the middle. It's like, all right, there's some signs I don't think you are. They go into a deficit. and they get a little weight loss, maybe for a couple weeks, and it gets them pumped up. Cool. You feel motivated. All right, we're ready to really kind of like amp up performance for a period of time, take a break from this weight loss thing. You feel good. You know that your body will respond to the deficit. Cool. So it's like this little give and take. We don't have to always follow all the stuff that's perfect in the textbook of we got to spend 3 months in a reverse diet, man, to establish maintenance. And then if we go 2 weeks early, it's going to be a problem. Your entire metabolism will revolt and shut down. And so it's a little, you play some games with yourself, figure some stuff out, see what works, try the different quote unquote fads. They all work for a reason. It's finding what works for you and your lifestyle, makes you feel good.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
it's wild
A lot
stuff.
of it, a lot of it comes down to just accepting that it's going to be some trial and error,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
Essentially, we're going to try something that if hopefully makes you feel better. If it doesn't, guess what? We learned something. You didn't fail. You just
yeah,
learned that shit does not work. So great,
yeah,
we get to try the next thing until we move to a level of like, okay, I talk a lot of shit about keto all the time, but like you
yeah,
said, there's a place and time for keto to be effective, right? For
yeah.
a specific person, and that's fine. We get
Yeah,
to
and I talk
try
shit on
that and
keto all
see.
the time as well.
Yeah. I
me
like I like
using
it.
that as
I like
me using that as example was not supporting the keto diet. It was just there is
just
a time and a place.
just a
But
little bit.
yeah,
I love your vegan rants. Those are my favorite, honestly. Uh,
I did. So I just want a vegan to explain to me why they're okay with the hundreds of thousands of animals that are murdered to grow all the plants, but they're not okay with the cows and the deers being killed. That's what I want to know. How come you're okay with land deforestation to grow your soy, but you're not okay?
oh my god.
Yeah, like I don't get it. I don't
I
get
don't
it.
think do they usually come back with an argument after that, or is that do they pretty much shut down?
No, I don't think anybody ever has answered that question. I
I don't
think
know
a
how
lot of vegan, at least online, they're hit and run. They're hit and run people. They'll throw a shot out and then they disappear.
then they're gone. They
And then they're
they they,
gone.
they ain't standing to fight.
Now, at the same time, I commend people if their reasons are, and everybody, I think their reasons for doing this kind of stuff is pure. It's not like somebody's going, I'm a vegan because I hate all those little rodents and I want more murdered. So I'm going to push vegetables, So I don't think there's any vegan out there that's like that. They all have a noble reason that they are a vegan. And some
Yeah.
do genuinely think it's healthier, but it's wild to see how many people are like, I used to be a vegan and then my health took a dive. They felt
Yeah.
great for a period of time. Then it took a dive, and they're like, "Oh, I realized I needed, whatever meat again." But
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild.
You don't learn until you try it, and you feel it,
Uh,
and you're like, "Oh, that sucks."
and even from like even yeah, like CHOP. I'm near Philadelphia, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. If somebody goes in there with an eating disorder and then they're a vegan, they will not let them be a vegan while they're staying at CHOP. They make them
Mm,
at least eat eggs at
mhm.
minimum. So even these hospitals recognize this is not, the healthiest way to live. And I love the freaking vegans that are eating pasta and donuts. Like you're 212 pounds and you're telling me how you're a vegan and it's for your health. Like
Ah,
I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
and it's that cognitive dissonance, like the
yeah.
Liver King, all these people. Kale is bullshit. Thanks,
Oh,
Carnivore MD. There's defense chemicals. Yeah, not to defend against human beings. Like, it's insane. But what gets lost in sometimes even those messages, like somebody will cut that person off and their entire message because of one thing. And
yeah,
it's like there's still a good message that can come from Liver King. There's still a good message that can come from Carnivore MD. Get sunlight, be outside, lift, move, eat real food. There's a good message, but we're like, this guy's an idiot just because of
yeah,
one thing. We
yeah.
have to start thinking better
Mm,
when we see these things. It's I don't know.
I think that's a
Got to be
great
better
way.
thinkers.
Yeah, you're right. I think honestly, it's the whole think before you act thing that we've been told our entire goddamn lives that
Yeah,
we, as we got older, forget much more often. But we'll go and remind children
yeah,
and people younger than us, like think before you act. But then we don't turn around and look at it ourselves. And I followed in the track when I was building a lot of momentum on my social media, and I was rapidly growing an audience, and I had no idea what to do with it. And I saw all the carnivore stuff, and I was like, oh, I had a very emotional response that didn't do well. It did well views wise, but there's just so many arguments that I did not anticipate to deal with because I was looking at it from a very emotional state instead of like
yeah.
taking it for what it was and say, okay, well, it's not the end of the world, right? Yes, I disagree with the messaging and how there's more continuing to fear mongering, but yeah, like you said, look at it
Yeah.
for what it is and take away what may resonate, but leave the rest. Like
Yeah.
that's it. There's no end all be all to what works. Like this is the only thing that works, right? Whatever
Yeah.
whatever works for you, great. I'm really excited to hear this whole Liver King thing from you guys whenever that episode comes
Well,
out.
we will find out. We have no idea. We're like emergency podcast tonight, Liver King. He's like done, and we'll see. But there are things that we can learn from him, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. Now everybody's like, "Fuck you, Liver King." I mean, people are going after his son. His kid's like 10 years old, calling him
Really?
like I used to. Oh yeah, go on Liver Boy Rad is the kid's IG, and then just
Yeah.
open up the latest picture, and there's just people shredding this kid. Like you people are degenerates. You're losers. You're going after this kid because the dad lied about steroids. And how's anybody even upset that he lied? Like,
We all knew.
if you believed him, you're
Yeah.
the one who's mentally deficient. If you believed that he was all natural, you're mentally deficient. So why are you even mad?
Yeah.
Like, it was not a surprise at all. I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, duh. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at the guy. I'm just like, you didn't have to lie. And but it's mind blowing. We get upset because it's like, because there's people out there that believe. And part of me is like, that's your fault for believing at this point, man. It's just your fault for
Seriously.
believing this stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And when you go, like I have my master's in this stuff, and that was one of the things I learned. We just spent so much time reading research. And just an example could be people who do yoga live longer. Okay, so like this could be something that's proven in a study, but we don't pay attention to how these studies are done. And it's
Yeah.
not because the person does yoga. It's because the person who practices yoga tends to have 1,000 other things that are better lifestyle wise. They
Yeah.
focus on relaxation. They're less stressed. They probably eat better food and they're more aware of their body and in tune. There's all those factors. You're not going to be a 300-pound guy who eats McDonald's 7 times a day, do yoga, and add 12 years to your lifespan. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. There's all these other factors that are involved. So the same studies with vegetarians, but these are epidemiological studies where they just ask people, do you eat meat? Check, check, check. And then they track to see when they die. But they didn't ask if they smoked. They didn't ask if they work out. They didn't ask if the meat was from McDonald's. They didn't ask what their other calorie intake was. And then they take the vegetarians and they're like, oh, based on this 100 vegetarians, this 100 people that don't eat that eat meat, the vegetarians live longer. It doesn't mean it's because they were a vegetarian. Like there's
Yeah.
1,000 other factors. And that's the point with this Liver King stuff and everything that we talked about. Like have an open mind, think of both sides. Don't take things with a grain of salt. We're experimenting, we're trying. The coach is there to remind you and guide you. And you just keep playing the game. But once you're in the game, you're in the game. You're
Yeah.
living that lifestyle of the healthy person. I think a lot of people are like, once I get fit, then I'll go to the gym. Well, good luck doing it in that order. Once I get fit, then I'll go start hiking. Well, why don't you start hiking? Start doing the things that you imagine yourself doing when you're fit, and then you'll be doing them.
Yeah.
You don't have to be fit to hike, but you can hike and get fit.
Yeah.
So what are all the things? I'm going to ride a bike if I get fit. Well, maybe start riding a bike. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No,
So
you
do
know,
those things that you
you're
picture
not allowed
yourself
to say,
doing.
I don't know ever again.
I don't know.
Shut the fuck up.
That's my my humble I don't know. You know.
No, I think that it perfectly encapsulates the everything that we talked about. Ultimately, we got to think better. That's it.
Yeah.
And think of the order that we would like to be doing things and how rational they are, and think about what we would like to actually, or what we should be taking away from these things, not what is for face value and that's it. And immediate reactions like, okay, run and just run with that. So I could probably talk to you for another goddamn hour. But I don't want to take up too much
No,
more
I
of your
got an
time.
emergency podcast in 25 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm getting kicked off here. So
Just
Jim, please give the people what they want. How can they find you? What's your podcast name? Where's your Instagram? What else would you like people to know about you?
very simple. You can find me on Instagram at Jimmy Nutrition. The podcast is Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with my buddy Aram, who is at 4 Weeks to the Beach on Instagram. That's pretty much it. Yeah, check out the podcast. We curse, we laugh, we go on rants and rip each other and make out with each other on Zoom. It's we have fun. But then yeah, Jimmy Nutrition. I post a lot about the stuff that we talked about, our perspective on things, the mental aspect of things. You're not going to find recipes on my page. If you want recipes, go somewhere else.
Yeah, fuck recipes. Keep it simple. Protein, vegetable, carbohydrate.
Yeah,
That's
there's
literally
plenty of other places you can get recipes from. You
yeah,
know,
that's awesome.
even then, people are like, "Do you have any recipes for?" I'm like, "Go anywhere in the world, you can find recipes."
Yeah,
Like Google, you should not even
Google
ever be asking a
recipes.
human for a recipe at this point. Go on Pinterest, go on Good Housekeeping or whatever websites have.
Good
I don't know.
housekeeping.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's awesome, man. Well, Jim,
No,
thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate the time, and it was an absolute blast
absolutely,
to get to talk to you, man.
absolutely, man. You too. It's good seeing you.
All right, see you later.